Osiris.
Welcome to the Saint Disruption Podcast, where brilliant musicians, poets, and visionaries come together to share their creative collaborations and explore what it means to be human in these times.
We will continue this dialogue with Oteil Burbridge and Jahman Hill regarding their collaboration of poetry and music. In part 2 of this episode, we will be debuting their second work, Wisdom.
What's interesting for me is I was like when you had sent me the first version, I was like, dang it. I was like, why he mess with my voice? For me, because I was like, it's like a track. I was like, this is a track that I'm sending. So like I'm always like, oh, let's see how we can use this instrument here, these words. Oh, we'll throw some reverb here. Or, oh, this part right here needs a delay. Like, is it the rhythm or the waves? Or, like little, I'm like, oh, we play, it's a playground. I'm like, oh, this is a playground for you. So even as we're still working through the process, I encourage you to like take even more risks because I'm always interested in how my vocal track can be approached in the same way that we approach, the bass track that's given. Like, how do we? Okay, what if we do this, and it's different because it's a voice, yeah. But it's like, oh, it's fun for me. It's fun. I'm like, this is the one time I get to be a instrumentalist. It's like my voice. It's my instrument. I'm like, look, hey, but a lot of times when I create too, I literally will use my voice, rhythm, meter, rhyme. The very first album I ever recorded, and I'm sad about the story every time I tell it because it got lost somehow. I was at the University of Alabama. I spent a day with a band and we were just recording. And I had 4 lines, I think. The word was arachnids, my legs eight legs set backwards to the passive the pterodactyl, the fastest to the fast man with the fastest rappers, something like that. That was it. That was my note, if you will. And they were just playing, and I was also playing, but I was playing those words in different order. I was like, what happens if I say it this way? If I say it this way, if I had a little ad lib right here, and we just recorded, and it was like we were all playing music, and that was just my instrument. And it was such an amazing experience and fun to do because it wasn't like, oh, I have to have a bunch of different words. It's like, no, my voice is literally an instrument, and these are my notes, and I'm gonna play these notes to how they're playing their notes, and we're gonna make something.
So cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, strange, weird. It's so fun. It's
just said when you just recited that, it was like, wow, I hear a djembe lead line under it, man. It's just like, boy, talking about an anchor. Wow, it's great. Well, thank you for the permission.
Where is this recording?
It's lost. It's lost right? In the ether. Yes, I'm so crushed. It was we recorded for about 20 hours straight, and I was heavily inspired by Snarky Puppy, and their recording of Lingus, I believe it was. And I was like, y'all, we're gonna do a few different jam sessions today. We're just gonna hang out here for the day. We're gonna do some jam sessions. I'm gonna order food for us throughout the day, and we're just gonna jam out. And I'm only going to work with like what we would call like quartet, like a 4-line bar for each song. I have 4 lines, and those are gonna be my notes, and we're just gonna play and see what we do. It's almost like scat, right? Where you're doo-dop, bebop, you're using these sounds. And I'm like, okay, instead of I'm gonna graduate though from sounds to lines and see, and play and see how this works. And we see it in music a lot. Like when singers, they might like repeat a chorus, they might forget their lines, and in the midst of forgetting their lines, come up with an iconic moment. I know. Like, right, that's, it's like, he forgot his lines, but hey, it became a moment, right? and it's like interesting to me, those moments. And I'm like, how can I just go full-fledged with it and see what happens?
We got to do this live.
Yes.
That with this lineup, that would be a great thing to do.
Yes.
Cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ton of fun. Yes.
Beautiful. Well, y'all, time is marching on. Should we move into some wisdom?
I love that. I love that.
So the man want to talk about wisdom. The man want to tell me what's supposed to be wise, what's supposed to be right. The man want me be quiet, be cordial, be wide, be dumb, be deaf, be blind, be see no evil, hear no honky. The man, what he know about wisdom, about decisions, about being black, set back, but still boisterous. Still say it loud, still black and proud, still pride. Still self-worth and understanding, still navigating this new stuff, this declining, darling, presidential arrest and masks and no masks. I'd say it's not hard to find peace with the country crumbling to pieces. We dance in the destruction, find joy in the change. It's either the gallows or growth, you decide. See, the man don't know nothing about wisdom. He ain't been in the gutter, he ain't laid the bricks. See, I'm comfortable, cause when a building collapses, only thing left is the foundation. And guess what? We is the foundation. We that bass, I know you hear it. Negro, we that music, that heart, that rhythm, that rock. Stand firm in your blackness. You've been known how to move mountains, you are one. Steady yourself, trust your intuition. That's your ancestors whispering. You got the wisdom of 1,000 souls right there at the tip of your tongue. All you gotta do is ask. All you got to do is speak. And watch the waves of wisdom bring you to see. Real good. Real good. Real good. Real good. Real good. Real good.
Man, that line, you are the mountain, steady yourself, trust your intuition, that's your ancestors whispering. Dude, that just, it's, that track I played banjo bass on. Banjo comes from Africa. Once I found that out, I was like, oh, whoa. Right? And I'm like, of course, it's a guitar that's still a drum. Right? And I always wanted to use banjo bass on something. It's taken me 13 years to really find the right home for it. And so I was scared I was like, this is going to sound really weird to him. He's going to be like, that's the bass track, But it sounds more African to me, And so when you said that, you are the mountain, steady yourself, trust your intuition. That's your ancestors whispering. My brain I was like, all right, you're good, man.
You're right. When I first heard it, I was like, okay. I was like, all right. And I remember I was in the studio with Gene, and I've been telling him for a minute, like, hey, we gotta go to the studio, we gotta do something for this track, and I couldn't think of anything. I was trying to like fit something I had written before like to it, and I was like, I can't think of anything. And we were in the studio, and I'm like, Gene, hold up, just play the track. I'm just gonna close my eyes and go for it. So closed my eyes, typed it up, and I was like, yeah. No. Okay. I hopped in the studio, started recording. I was like, wait. I got more, Gene. I got more. Went back and typed up some more. And the part that I typed up some more was that stand firm in your blackness. You've known how to move mountains. You are one. Steady yourself. Trust your intuition. That's your ancestors whispering. That was the more part where I was like, oh man, there's more to this. There's more.
Yeah.
So I could feel it though. Like tell me about your process for creating this. I told y'all how, but tell me your process for creating this because I'm really interested to know.
All I do is I forget whether you sent me a click or whether you had a basic rhythm track done, but I just try to find a groove. And I don't think, Jeff, you told me any key. I don't know why I picked E flat because, with bass, you would think I would have picked E. I don't know. But basically, since I'm a drummer, I'm just always trying to play drums on bass. And I just use whatever harmony I'm forced to, if it's a minor thing. I just chose a little minor pentatonic. I don't even know if I did the full pentatonic, but I was just trying to find a groove, and that was it. I was just like, if you can get it a groove and just, it's not like going to disturb what's going to happen around it, just keep that going, do some little variations off it. But I was basically just trying to keep it simple, but just highlight the tone, what the banjo bass does. You can't play it like another bass. You got to play it for what it is and then use that strong point. And so that's why it does sound like a regular bass, because it's not. But it's in the groove, though, and I'm so glad you were able to, connect with it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because I was like, this is something that, how would I put, requires, it asks of. Like I was like, you can't just slap any old poem on top of this. No, you have to it's requiring of you to give more. When I first heard it, I was instantly taken to 1970s blaxploitation movies.
That's me.
Yeah.
Blackula.
Yeah, I was like Dolomite. I was like,
That's so. God. See, the fact that you heard that through banjo bass just makes my heart feel. See, trust your intuition. That's your voice. That's your ancestors whispering.
I was like, listen. I was like, oh. I was like, man. I was like, I need an afro. I need some bell bottoms. I'm entering this space, and I remember the theme. The theme being wisdom. Who chose the theme? So who chose the theme of wisdom? Because that's where I wrote from. Who chose that theme? How did that come about?
I think we sent you a rhythm and some bass, and you went after it. It was in the
your ancestors.
Yeah,
my ancestors. Okay, bet. I was like, I knew somebody had said something about wisdom, so I was like, I remember vividly. I was like, how do I talk about wisdom through this lens? And it's the man, right? This is the man. There's this position to the man. It's an ode back to Gil Scott-Heron. I thought of Whitey's on the Moon. The first poem, Float, there were calls back to James Baldwin and The Fire Next Time. But this one specifically, I was like, who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Gil. I'm thinking of 125th, 125th and Lennox. I'm thinking of these warnings. And that's where, when I think of wisdom, I was like, at this time, that's where it is. This is the person on the street, that you see, and they're warning you, and at first you're like, this guy's crazy, but you're also like, but they making sense though. It's like at first you're like, this person's crazy, but you're like, but they do got a point. And I was like, that's what I wanted to sound like. I felt like that's what it was like. This moment with the music, it was so playful. It was so upbeat. It was so bow chicka wow wow. You had to have all of that in the.
I watched and listened to a bunch of your work before putting some initial rhythms down, and I was like, I got to get back to the 70s, and I sent Oteil a bunch of stuff, and some of it was just so weird and upside down it didn't really work, but that one seemed to stick, and I had no idea what it was going to be about. at all. But you nailed it, and it is. I mean, the thing about that period, I was just reading an essay that Charles Eisenstein just put out, and I think what did he call it? The America that almost was and yet may be. And he references the point of American history where we almost realized the founding fathers' dreams. You know, it was like in the 60s, all the shit was up. We were working through all this stuff, and there was creativity, and there was like, we are all equal, and we're working through all this stuff. And then Kennedy gets assassinated, and it's just the darkness hadn't left us since. And that period, you know, I think about, you know, for me, Gil Scott-Heron, Last Poets. I was like, wow, when I was watching your YouTube work, Jahman, and just trying to grok, you know, like where you're sourcing from it, I just kept going back to that period, that period of tremendous trauma. So I knew that the rhythm had to be something that had a celebration, that had to make you want to move your butt a bit and kind of celebrate the difficulty, you know, and the transformation. I don't know. That's just kind of like what happened with me.
When I think of that, one of the first things I think of, Oteil, is like how when we talk about slavery and how there would be these parties and there would be coded messages, right? Where it's like, okay, they just kind of see us out here dancing and celebrating, but what we're actually doing is sending messages of how to survive, how to make it. I'm like, that's what I think of with the song. I'm like, ha ha. But in all of it, like I even call back to James Brown in my worst James Brown impression possible. You know, I'm like, that was not scripted. When I was in the studio, she was like, "You want to keep that?" I was like, "Yeah, keep it." It was the moment. You know, feel good. You know, like that idea of we're gonna have this idea of movement. I mean, living in America, right? When you like look at the lyrics, you're like, oh snap, there's a whole message to this. And all people like living in America. You know, they think it's different than what it really is. It's like, oh man, it's so much fun with it.
I was that way for years with Born in the USA by Springsteen.
Yeah.
It was on the radio all the time when I was in high school. And I never listened to the lyrics, you know, and I was like, oh, God, if I hear that one more fucking time, you know. I said something about it. I think I made it all the way to my 40s. And someone said, you know, that's a protest song. I was like, really? They were like, you should listen to the lyrics, which I never did. I just went, Born in the USA, you know, like. And then I was like, oh, wow, he's really cool. He was like saying, this is full of shit, you know? Like, I had all these decades, man, you know? So, yeah.
It's a way, there's like a way in which like we said, music is a form of protest in a way. Right. And then I always tell people it's similar to poetry where once you learn the rules, then you break them. Right? You spend years figuring out the rules, how this works, and then you're like, now I'm gonna get more creative with it. Like now that I know these rules, I can break them on purpose. Right? I can be intentional about how I impart wisdom, right, upon the next generation so that they know. And the whole time I can be smiling in their face. It's like I was smiling
living
in their faces.
America.
Yeah, everybody's there dance. They have no idea what's actually going on here.
I love that covert part of it, you know. like all the way from the slave parties, right? And it's like, but it's all the way through, you know, free your mind and your ass will follow. Like there's always a thing in there, just like, looks like we're just jumping around, dancing and having fun. But there's really this other subtext going on that's like, hey, man, this is how you make it through this madness. You know, because you got
there's also like a level of in I'll call back to Jeff, like you mentioned the 70s. It's what's interesting, two things are interesting about it. One, I feel like this piece is different than anything I've done before. I was like, when I was starting, I was like, this is gonna sound different than anything I've ever done. Like this is already gonna sound different. I'm excited for this challenge. But two, conspiracy theories was like huge
Yeah.
for me. When I was listening, I was like, I've gotta have like conspiracy or some calls to conspiracy. So what is conspiracy? How do we think of conspiracy? And that's where that the navigating this new stuff, this declining dollar, presidential arrest, masks, no mask. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to just like add just enough in there to like call towards conspiracy in a way, and explore conspiracy. It was just something I felt like, and I wasn't alive in the 70s. I wasn't there yet. I was still 20 years out. But I just, when I think back to that time, I think of like, say, man, the stay away from that stuff. Like the man's using that stuff to,
Oh,
to like change your mind. You gotta think outside. That's kind of what the feeling I got when listening, and one of the things I thought of when it came to like imparting wisdom was calling towards that kind of thing.
The choice of the word stuff is pretty damn awesome. I mean, it's just like there's this beautiful air of sarcasm in it. It's just like, man, that stuff. I mean, don't
Yeah.
do with that stuff. It was great.
you know, when people talk about like conspiracy theories and stuff, and I'm like, wow, how could you try to poo-poo something like that? Look at the drug war, right? It was federal government, the executive branch, um, local government, state government, federal, local, and state police, academia, the media, print media, radio media, television media, like a full court conspiracy where they put marijuana on
Mhm.
Schedule 1. If you looked at Schedule 2, like some real heavy shit is on Schedule 2, and they're saying marijuana is worse than that. You're like,
Yep.
what? You know, it was a full-on conspiracy from top
Yep.
to bottom. And then you were like, oh, that's a conspiracy. Like, you're just brainwashed, man, and not a critical thinker. So if you don't
Exactly.
see, you know, like, sorry, man.
Yeah. So on that note, thanks for opening that channel up. I mean, what's the antidote? I mean, one might say we got some healing and reconciling to do in this culture of ours. What's the path forward? I think about like Jeffrey Robinson's documentary on that really lays out better than any hour I've ever seen about how this country is founded on death and white supremacy and on so much injustice, from the Iroquois to Chinese railroad slaves. I mean, it goes on and on and on. How do we move past this? What's the antidote?
I don't know how to get to it, but I know one thing, this system depends on us staying in it. Okay, it needs our labor. It desperately wants our tax dollars. It definitely wants all our dollars, and desperately wants our votes. So you got to withhold shit, man. Now, I know that works if all of America, or if half of America, or if a quarter of America stopped shopping at Walmart for a week, they could change Walmart, because they would lose so much money. They would be like, all right, what do we got to do? Right?
Mhm.
Boycotts. That's why boycotts were, okay, fine. You know what? How about if none of us take the bus?
Mhm.
Oh, because they want that money. They want my vote. You want my vote? Do something. My vote's here for you to get. Come and get it.
Mhm.
Don't try to
Mhm.
shame my vote out of me, or just this. Like, my vote's here for you to get. But I'm going to withhold it. I'm going to withhold. You vote with your dollars. The hard part is, how do you get everybody to come together on it? That was the genius of the civil rights movement. The organizational part, where they did get everybody to go, all right, nobody's going to ride the bus, and then watch it change, right? I don't know
Yeah,
how to
and I
get the
think
unity, though.
The unity, I think, is huge. I think so. It's funny because I literally, my production team, we had this conversation for like 3 hours yesterday. Which I will not give y'all 3 hours right now. I know that we we have time crunch, but you had mentioned earlier like my degree in women's studies was my focus was like critical race theory, and these were kind of the conversations that we were having all the time. And I thought of how there's a couple of things that, like you said, how to get there. Who I don't know. That's one thing we came up at the end of 3 hours. We're like, we don't know. But things that I think that we haven't acknowledged really yet as a country. When we think of white supremacy, we I think we try to attach a certain morality to it that does not exist. And we have to like acknowledge that we are having a conversation about this idea or this entity that does not have morals. Like morals are not part of the conversation. But a lot of times we as human beings have morals, like we have them and we assume that everybody else does, but some of these things require like the losing of more, like not for our side, like I'm just saying some of these things that have happened, they require the losing of morals. Like in Florida there is a certain level of don't give a fuckness that these
Yeah.
Republicans can all attach themselves to, that allows them to do something. And I think the Republican Party is a great example of how does in America how have things gotten done, and there's a lack of morals. The thing I said yesterday, and it's gonna be controversial, but it's okay. If it's too controversial, I can edit it out. But if R. Kelly came out as a Republican and supported the banning of textbooks and stuff, Republicans would stand behind him 1,000%. They literally have no morals. They literally would be like, R. Kelly is now our poster child for banning, Black history in textbooks.
Yeah.
We don't have no morals. We have like, so we gotta start with the idea like we are talking about a group of people who don't have the same moral ethics or codes and who are willing to get dirty. And how do we approach that, and how do we combat that, is an interesting space. But we got to start there. Like it was like there's a moral disconnect there. I mean, that's how we get the indiscriminate killings. That's how we get this, like, all of this violence that is okayed, that people are just accepting and turning away. There's just a lack of
The gun
moral
thing.
fortitude that exists. I have this idea
But I
of,
think that's on both sides too.
yeah,
all over.
yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think Democrats are as like I wish they would be sometimes. I wish they would, like, I
I
think
think they
that
are. I think they are. I think they're wolves in sheep's clothing. I really
I
do.
think they're wolves.
You
I
know
think that,
what?
yeah.
I lived in Birmingham, Alabama for 18 years. I was in the deep south for 40
Mhm.
or yeah, almost coming up on 40. And it's like the Klansmen, I know where I stand with them. This speaks to censorship. I was like, don't censor
Mhm.
these people, right? They just took all their hoods off and they're proudly on Facebook. Like, we know
Yeah.
who they are. Like, now we know, oh, that's Sheriff Arpaio and Judge Joe Brown or
Mhm.
Judge whoever, what's the
Yeah.
guy in Alabama? Judge Joe
Oh,
something.
I know
That
who you're
old.
talking about.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's dead by now. But I was like, they took their hoods
Yeah.
off. So I
Hmm.
kind of appreciate it, the racism and all that being up front,
Yes.
right? But then when I look at
Yes.
the left, and I wonder, do these terms mean anything anymore? It's
They
like,
don't. The left's not really left.
yeah,
They're not really.
liberal
Yeah.
is what? Because look at what they agree on. They all agree on
Hmm.
up in that military budget and no
Hmm.
for the poor. Yes for this, no for the poor, yes for this, no for. So I'm like, so you're just saying you'll give me Juneteenth as a holiday, but you're not going to really do something substantial to help the Black
Yeah.
community. would just get the holiday. I'm like, I don't need the holiday, man. How about make things better? So it's like, we're talking about amorality because it's all about money.
Yeah,
That's
it's all about money.
Ultimately about class. And see, once white people become the new N-words, then they can't handle it because they didn't come up Indian or Mexican or black or, and those are the ones with all the guns. So, you're talking, and it's in the DNA, that whole Wild West, that Florida is still a Wild West. It's, it's got that in its DNA, and I don't know, it's baked into the cake. I don't know how you unbake it, right?
Yeah, it's in there. It's like when we think about the Western world, I was one thing that I never forget, one of my first day of classes that our professor set us down. He was like, "Hey, just so y'all know, like y'all aren't leftist. Y'all think that you're leftist, but you're not leftist." He was like, for example, tomorrow, what we'll do for the next class, I want everybody to bring in clothes, and we're just going to share our clothes. We're going to all wear each other's clothes and stuff. We'll just keep the clothes here. You can pick up other people's outfits, whatever you want to wear that day. We're just sharing clothes. And the class was like, nah. He's like, yeah, see, you're still mine. They're still so individualized that you can't even think collective. You're not at that point where it's like we are starting in the right, like right. And when I say right, I mean right wing.
Exactly.
Like that's our starting point. So the left people in America are right wing, are still right wing. They're
neocons.
Yeah.
If you look at America, if you look at the American left or the Dems from another country, they're neocons. It's just war profiteering. I mean, it's all the same. After Trump, now Bush is the good guy and Liz Cheney. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. But Obama droned 10 times more than W.
Obama was going in.
We were in the streets about what the drones. It's an 11% success rate. That means 90% of the people dying are innocent. Obama emptied the tank. So it's like, what's the...
Yeah.
That's left? That's progressive? That's liberal? Or that's,
Yeah.
Sorry, you edit out all my political
Jeff, you have
rants.
opened up a can of worms.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's good.
But how do you talk about, I said this before, how you talk about music without talking about spirituality? How can you talk about spirituality without talking about injustice? How can you talk about injustice without talking about all that shit that everybody wants to avoid? Religion, politics, blah, 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 right?
Yep.
That's why I use music. Music's a vehicle. Yeah, music's a vehicle. I think a lot of times, like music, poetry, like these are vehicles that exist for us to start those conversations, which is why it's so important to, think about what are the messages that you're putting out. It's the same thing when we went all the way back to water. Like these are messages that people are ingesting, and that we're absorbing. And if our body is 75% or 60% water, that means in addition to our brain, which holds and stores memories, literally the vibrations of the words that you hear are being stored in the water in your body. They are like, it is absorbing those messages and it is carrying those out in a certain way, shape, or form. So you've got to think effectively. You've got to listen effectively. You've got to be very cognizant of what memories you're creating for your physical being and for your spiritual being.
Yeah. And all those amoral people at the top, they know the power of it. They may not understand the science of it and how these feelings and patterns and intentions are stored in this water, but they know the power of it. They know music is subversive. If it's used subversively, can really undo. That's why when shit goes down, the first thing they do is go after the artists. They go after the poets.
Yeah.
Like
we gotta kill all them. Let's get rid of this.
Yeah. Because that's gonna keep the resistance going.
That's why Trump. I always say like when Trump was doing it, because I did the communication studies stuff. Like we studied rhetoric and all of that stuff, persuasive speaking, all of those things. I was like, y'all don't even realize how powerful Trump's rhetoric is. Like people are like, he sounds dumb, and I'm like, no, he's actually doing all the
Oh,
things you teach in public speaking. Like we love
you
things
know
in
what?
threes. Lock her up, build that wall. Like he was like, I'm going to literally take 3-word phrases and imbue them into the
You know where he
people.
got that stuff from?
Where
Professional
is
wrestling.
that?
This is why the snobbery of the
Yep.
left and the you know what I mean? I was the same way. I was like, I'm not watching that. And for some reason, a couple of years ago, I got into professional wrestling and it sorted everything out. Colonel Bruce tried to tell me this when I was 24. And I got it. I go, oh, you got a heel and you got a baby face, and they're both protecting the business. The
Mm-hmm.
best way for a heel to generate heat is with real heat. So the heel that's
Mm-hmm.
powerless is the one that's not hated. In
Mm-hmm.
professional wrestling, if I can't get you to boo me, if I'm going to play the heel, if I can't get
Mm-hmm.
you to hate me, I'm powerless. Trump learned how to get people to hate him, and everybody moved in left, just plaster. All you could see on left media was Trump, 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 because it was good for
Yep.
ratings, because it was professional wrestling played out in real life in pop, and I was just like, oh my God, this whole thing is theater. The whole thing
Yes,
is
it's
theater.
theater. Oh
But they
yeah,
got to
yeah.
get you invested in one team or the other. I was like, I don't care about the Cowboys or the Redskins. Y'all are both,
Mm-hmm.
y'all are not on my team and I'm not on yours. You know what I mean? Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that snobbery that why they sleep on him. He knows, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's from the street, dealing with the mafia. You can't be a land developer in New York without dealing with the mob, and from professional wrestling. Which after that he was a TV star. Remember, he
Mm-hmm.
learned he's. So that's why I would advise people go watch WWE and sort it out.
So the bottom line from this episode is America's redemption is worldwide wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. This was paid for by Vince McMahon.
Who I have the same birthday as. Get this, my birthday I share with Dave Chappelle, Howard Zinn, Yasser Arafat, and Vince McMahon.
What a
All
spirit.
radicals, man.
What
That
a
explains a lot.
I texted Colonel Bruce. I was like, I understand so much more about myself right now.
gentlemen. I think we could probably do this for hours. This has really been an incredible conversation.
Yeah.
Time just
Wonderful. Thank you.
is an illusion.
Yeah, incredible. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. And we will celebrate your presence through this collaborative music. We'll get it out to the world, and just a heartfelt thank you from John and myself, and from all the podcast team. This really meant a lot for you to bring your beautiful art, your beautiful souls, and your beautiful hearts to the collaboration ground here, and we really look forward to sharing this with the world. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. This whole idea of this kind of collaboration of bringing people together to do this, like you guys are, just so beautiful to hear what it brought out for each of you and how, and it's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Thank you guys, man. What a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. And hi mom. Just in case she watches it. You
That's
never
right. That's right.
know.
My mom's too old to get on now, so I have to go play it for her.
And who knows, Oteil, we might try to take you up on your idea of doing something live. I think there's a spark in that idea.
No, and we should record it too. I mean, I'm sure we will, but what a great thing. I was like,
that would be
man,
fun.
that'd be perfect for us.
After hearing how inspired Jahman was about his lost album, the Saint Disruption production team created a mix of what one of Jahman's lost tracks could have sounded like, using vocal samples from the podcast, as well as music generated with John Medeski and Oteil Burbridge.
This is my instrument. I'm like, and I had 4 lines, and the word was arachnid. My legs, eight legs set backwards to the passage of pterodactyl, the fast man with the fastest rappers. The word set backwards. The virus set. The lamp set. The guy dressed this hat, but the virus set. The lamp set. Arachnid. That's what my voice. Rappers use this instrument here, these words. 8 legs set backwards, and with the fast rhythm, legs, meter, arachnid, to the passage, 8 legs, pterodactyl, to the passage, to the fast man rappers. My voice, rhythm, meter, rhyme. My legs, 8 legs to the passage, to the fast man with the fastest rappers. Pterodactyl.
The Saint Disruption Podcast. Recorded and mixed by Hamilton Media Design at Sidehouse Records.
Osiris.